News. Today is Wednesday, September 4th. I'm Andrea Linares. We begin today with Hurricane Dorian. The storm is currently 100 miles off Florida's east coast, and it could reach the Carolinas later this week. Meanwhile, take a look at the devastation in the Bahamas. First, begin with our chief meteorologist from Univision, Albert Martinez, with the latest on Dorian's location and direction. Albert, what do we know? Hurricane Dorian has finally moved away from the Bahamas, and we're getting a better view of the devastation left behind. Hundreds of people are stranded, thousands of structures are completely destroyed, and the death toll is rising. Lorraine Cáceres has more details.
The Bahamian Parliament said today the government was now pulling groups together to receive goods from abroad and was organizing distribution centers as teams begin to launch search and rescue missions. He also expressed his gratitude for how the world is coming together to help them out. Andrea, back to you.
Lorraine, I can't possibly imagine what all those people are going through. It just looks like a bomb went off there, and hopefully we can all come together to give them a helping hand. Thanks so much, Lorraine. And speaking about helping out, in South Florida, a community that is made up in part of Bahamian immigrants is coming together to support those devastated by Dorian. They are gathering food and supplies, with deliveries expected to begin arriving in the battered islands as soon as this weekend. Nidia Cavazos has details on these relief efforts. And moving on now, some areas in northern Florida are still experiencing. Here in Florida, things are slowly returning to normal. Universal Orlando resort parks and Disney parks have reopened. Orlando International Airport has also resumed operations. Still, a storm surge is possible along the coast. But for those in the Bahamas, it'll be a long road back to recovery. The Prime Minister there calling it the greatest national crisis in the country's history. Meanwhile, Dorian continues its path along the eastern coast. Our very own Ricardo Arambari is on his way to Charleston, ghost town right now, but it's a good thing that people are listening to authorities and getting out of those affected areas, and we will continue to monitor the situation, and please keep us informed and stay safe out there. And meanwhile, in New Orleans, Louisiana, a group of cruise ship passengers, listen to this, they got stranded by this deadly storm. And as Paola Byron reports, some of these travelers were even left waiting for hours without food or water. Still much more ahead, including the search. Welcome back to News. Now to the latest on that diving boat tragedy over the Labor Day weekend. The Coast Guard suspending its search for victims. Investigators desperate for answers behind that maritime tragedy. Juan Carlos Gonzalez has the latest details. And now to Texas. In the wake of this past weekend's mass shooting in Odessa, the widow of Washington former U.S. Secretary of Defense James Mattis says he will break his silence about the Trump administration and its policies when, quote, the time is right. Major news out of the Pentagon. Secretary of Defense Mark Esper has approved the transfer of billions of dollars of military construction funding so it can be used to build President Trump's border wall. As Pablo Gato reports, Democrats are not too pleased with the news. In early August, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services eliminated a program that allowed undocumented immigrants to avoid deportation if they were getting urgent medical treatment or staying with family members who were. The decision caused an uproar, which led the Trump administration to reconsider their position. But as Rafael Rodriguez explains, people are still unclear about what happens next. Next, an officer in Philadelphia, New York, where an arrest has been made in the case of a woman who authorities say went missing in early August after meeting a man on a dating site. Well, that woman then found in a store in Iowa on Saturday. Gianni Aponte has more. After the break, Iran finally was made in Guatemala on Monday. The former First Lady and presidential contender accused of campaign finance violations. That arrest coming just one day before a controversial United Nations commission tasked with investigating corruption in the country shut down. Azul Alvarez has all the details. Ready, set, eat. That's right. Let's now go to Annabelle Sedano with other major tech stories, including a look at why Facebook is taking a stance against the Department of Homeland Security. Annabelle?
Hi there, that's right. And we begin with this. Facebook says the U.S. Department of Homeland Security will be violating. I'm Annabelle Sedano, and that was your daily dose of tech news. Have a good one, guys.
It's that time of year again. Fans flocking to couches, bars, or even stadiums to watch their favorite football teams in action. But all that fun can take a toll on the body. So here's Genesis Vieira with some tips on how to kick off the season in a healthy way. Time now to check in with Carolina Sarasa. She's got a preview of all the stories that they're working on for the second hour of Unews. Caro, what are you working on for us today?
Thank you, Andrea. We have a number of major stories we're also working on today. With Hurricane Dorian continuing to head north towards the Carolinas, the acting head of Homeland Security sitting down with us to reassure undocumented immigrants who may be in danger ahead of the storm. We have his words. And also, as the U.S. continues to wrestle with a number of mass shootings, a few major stores are taking the lead in pushing for change. We will explain. And we have the incredible images of a man who took his City Hall complaints a little bit too far. That man decided to drive his truck into the building and did it several times. That story and more. Back to you, Andrea.
That's crazy. Thanks so much, Gato. We'll be waiting for you. But first, after this quick break, a 6-year-old boy in South Carolina could have taken his money and gone on a vacation of a lifetime, but instead, he decided that there was a better way to help in the wake of Hurricane Dorian. Mariti Marungi has more on this inspirational young boy. Jermaine, you have taught all of us a wonderful lesson, and I'm sure you will be able to go on that trip very soon. You have a huge heart. That's all the time that we have for the first hour of Unews. So stay tuned. We still have much more information coming up next in hour 2 with Carolina Sarasa. Thanks so much for watching.